Going to give him even more of the workload.
Oh, an onside kick. Fight.
Oh, what could have been last year. People forget that this squad was on the inside track to represent the West in the conference championship game. They were 7-1 at one point. A 3-game L streak ended all their hopes. Illinois' defense last year gave up the fewest touchdowns and came up with the most interceptions of any defense in the conference. This unit returned 7 starters, but not their play caller, who went off to coach at Purdue. Ole Miss transfer QB Luke Altmaier takes the reins from Tommy DeVito. It'll be a year of transition, so we'll see if Illinois can maintain its defense-based, dominate time of possession style of play. They go to Lawrence, Kansas to face one of the Big 12's most potent offensive units in the Jayhawks, and they failed this test with flying colors. Kansas outgained them 262 to 139 on the ground, and 277 to 202 through the air. Kansas destroyed Illinois like Brandon Johnson destroyed Lori Lightfoot. Kansas historically has not been much better at stopping opposing defenses than an average Kansas wheat field. This is a unit that put 6 sacks on Illinois today. I wouldn't read too much into the second half of this game, because apparently the reffing crew thought they were shopping at Target. They're giving out targeting penalties like Oprah Winfrey. This would-be touchdown was also apparently a blocking back. Perhaps someone in this reffing crew have bet the under on Kansas. It's going to be a long season for Illinois.
Fight.
Well, Nebraska fans, good news. You didn't lose by 1 score, you lost by 3 scores. Nebraska's defense actually played surprisingly stout for the first, say, 25 minutes. Even after this Jeff Sims oopsie, they still hold Colorado to a field goal. With 4 minutes left in the quarter, Jeff Sims takes back the ball and then throws this horrible interception, mental error, and that puts Colorado in great field position again. You can only do that so many times against the Sanders duo.
Looking, Sanders winding up, he's got him in, touchdown! Tarvarish Dog.
It's at this point in the game when Gus Johnson is openly calling for Nebraska to bench Jeff Sims for quote-unquote the psyche of the team. After Colorado pops in another field goal, Jeff Sims has this very nice Justin Fields-esque run to the end zone, and Nebraska gets within 1 score. Shadur Sanders responds in kind, with 2 beautiful passes to Weaver.
Under pressure, bounces, takes his time, does it, touchdown!
Dylan Edwards is able to get another big play here, and Colorado is able to tack on another field goal. And then the Nebraska team gets butterfingers at the worst time again in the 4th quarter. You see, it really feels like these teams weren't too terribly unevenly matched. Nebraska, for example, outrushed Colorado 4-1 and also were able to register 8 sacks. But there was one team on the field today that was able to make the most of their opportunities, whether it was a 2-minute drill or a turnover deep in their own territory, and there was one team that created those opportunities to be exploited. Is it too early to bet Colorado to make the Pac-12 championship game? Probably. But Matt Rule, I mean, I've defended him last episode, but if you're a Nebraska fan, it is hard to like what we're seeing from this team. He does look like the Carolina Panthers version of himself. I still give him time, but his seat could get pretty warm if more games keep going like this.
Fight.
For a reigning division champ, the Boilermakers have a big hill to climb to prove they can compete again, especially after the loss to Fresno State last week. Aiden O'Connell and Payne Durham go to the NFL, and Purdue has a new head coach in former Illinois defensive coordinator Ryan Walters. I suspect Purdue only really got into the championship game because everyone else in their division sucked, and with a lot of change, they will be hard-pressed to repeat their success. Purdue also had a lot of turnover at the offensive skill positions and the defensive line. While I don't think Purdue got significantly worse, they didn't get much better, and they've gone through a lot of change. teams like Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Iowa essentially did get a lot better. It seems like people are expecting Purdue to fall off like a rock, essentially not even make a bowl game. And even after the loss of Fresno State, I don't think they'll be that bad. Ryan Mulkey has proven to be a pretty damn good defensive coordinator at Illinois, and I think his style of play will translate well to Purdue.
After a brilliant touchdown run by Devin Mockabee, Purdue looks like they have a rhythm. But then, thunder hits, and the teams have to settle in for a long rain delay. There were thunderstorms in the area for the better part of 4 hours, and since we need warm-ups once the game starts, the rain delay was 5.5 hours long. Watching the broadcast, it was funny how the Lane Stadium crowd booed the officials when the game was postponed. And then like 30 seconds later, there was a big lightning strike close to the stadium and everyone freaked out. Respect Mother Nature, folks, because it won't respect you. With all momentum gone after a 5.5 hour rain delay, Virginia Tech was able to rally back and tie the game at halftime.
A third down yet. Wells looking left, got a man wide open on the slant. Daquan right.
You got time for a couple plays.
Wells to the end zone, got a man, touchdown.
The third quarter began as a sicko's dream. No points scored in all the third quarter. But then Hudson Card showed we can do this feat.
Design run for Card, touchdown Purdue.
This game shows why I'm not ready to give up on Purdue like everyone else seems to be. Purdue was able to hold Virginia Tech to 2 out of 12 on third down conversions and less than 20 rushing yards. Purdue still has it, folks. Maybe Virginia Tech is just bad, that is a possibility. But really, looking at the results today across the Big Ten West, is the competition within the conference going to be much better?
Fight.
Iowa found a real one in the transfer portal, former Michigan starting quarterback Cade McNamara. The story of Iowa last year was an incredible defense combined with sputtering QB play. Their defense only averaged giving up 4 yards per play last year. The running game came on strong in the second half, very nearly getting themselves to the conference championship game, but Nebraska had other plans. This team is a 9-4 record if they just get 4 more points per game, and they don't have to face both Ohio State and Michigan this year. Remember, there was a time when Cade was competing with J.J. McCarthy, Michigan's starter QB. They returned most of their defensive starters, and if the offensive line improves just a little bit, and the tight end duo of Luke Lachey and Eric All is as elite as expected, expect Iowa to make many appearances in the AP Top 25.
After a somewhat disappointing offensive performance against Utah State, Iowa gets off to a hot start here. They have to settle for a field goal here. So that famous defense quickly gives them the ball back and they're rolling. Briefly, the 2 tight ends lead the team among receiving yards, even among the wide receivers. And then we have a brilliant run here by Patterson. Have this errant McNamara throw, which may have had an uncalled defensive pass interference on it, leads to his first turnover. Thankfully, Iowa's defense steps up, and they get the ball back, and they get a pick 6. This is how Iowa plays. McNamara can't do it all. They're going to need their defense to get these turnovers. Fast forward to the fourth quarter. Iowa State has tacked on 2 field goals on 4th and 8.
For Rocco Beck, pressure coming in his face to the end zone.
And an raising play to put Iowa State back in it and to give Ames hope. This tackle for a loss forces Iowa to punt and sets up a potential game-winning drive for the Cyclones. Iowa's defense comes up in the clutch once again. And the Cy-Hawk Trophy goes back to Iowa City. I am a little bit concerned how Iowa's offense just kind of dies after the first 20 minutes or so. They'll get that figured out.
Fight.
Besides the unholy Trinity in the East, the team from Cheeseland is the highest-ranked Big Ten team. After a failed campaign last year, Wisconsin brings in Cincinnati head coach Luke Fickell and UNC offensive coordinator Phil Longo, who will transition to more aggressive air raid offense. Wisconsin returns 8 defensive starters, while Braylon Allen remains the team's biggest weapon at running back. SMU transfer QB Tanner Mordecai, as well as a few transfer sophomore wideouts, look to revitalize the passing game. With that, is Wisconsin the favorites from the Big Ten West? I really think it'll all come down to when Iowa and Wisconsin beat Madison at Camp Randall on October 14th. At that point in the season before conference play really begins in earnest, I'd like Iowa to win that game despite being the away team. I just believe they have a more proven roster and system, and an even more aggressive defense than Wisconsin. That said, the Badgers may have more upside as the season progresses and the air raid system is more established, and I liked them long-term better than Iowa, as McNamara won't play with them for long. Unfortunately, it's going to get a lot tougher for Wisconsin to compete for Big Ten titles when divisions are eliminated and the West Coast teams join next year.
Full disclosure, I recorded everything up until now in this segment before the game actually happened. But my suspicion that Iowa is a better team in the West was strengthened by this game. Everything in Washington State's side, from the players to the coaching staff to the fans, it was an atmosphere filled with rage. Washington State, along with Oregon State, are likely to be the two losers of the upcoming conference realignment. Everyone else in the Pac-12 has at minimum found a home, and at best has gotten themselves a media deal that will greatly increase their revenue. These two schools will be left out to dry. With the evil Big Ten Conference in town, this game means more to people in Pullman. Washington State is up to a big lead, but Wisconsin in the third quarter was able to draw up some good plays, and then Mordecai is able to do some improv here under deep pressure for a great touchdown. They decide to go for two to try to tie the game, which does not work. Up to this point, the two teams have played a pretty even game, except in one facet: turnovers. Wazoo had 3, Wisconsin was not able to muster a single one. On this turnover, Washington State was able to get a touchdown and establish a 2-score lead that Wisconsin was never able to come back from. Washington State shut down Wisconsin's running attack. Raylon Allen only had 7 carries for 20 yards. The receiving corps for Wisconsin looks legit, and that is a good sign going forward. Despite this, the Badgers go back to Madison with an L against a team with perhaps the derpiest logo in the Power 5. Speaking of conference realignment, you have the Cy-Hawk game every year, even though they're not the same conference. In the SEC, you have games like Georgia Tech, Georgia, South Carolina, Clemson. Like, why can't you just continue those games? And it doesn't look like Washington State, and Oregon State will happen either. Again, perhaps this is just due to the fact that out-of-conference opponents are scheduled multiple years in advance, and maybe a return to these rivalries will come in due time. Nothing much happened of note in the other 9 non-conference games that didn't involve Power 5 opponents. The most notable thing was Northwestern finally breaking its American soil losing streak against UTEP. Maryland also struggled against Charlotte early, but were able to pull ahead. Looking around the other conferences, Tulane fell to Ole Miss. As Ole Miss was Tulane's only Power 5 opponent, it is likely that the G5 will not make the playoffs this year. The biggest headline around college football this weekend is, of course, Texas taking down Alabama by 10 points at Bryant-Denny Stadium. This will bring Texas up to number 4 in the poll, and Alabama all the way down to 10. Other notable results include Tennessee struggling against Austin Peay University, an FCS team. They only beat them 30-13. Another striking result is Oregon barely edging out Texas Tech, and North Carolina barely, even more closely, getting win against App State. There were also 2 Week 1 games I didn't have the chance to cover in the last episode. FSU really pulled away from LSU Week 1 in Orlando, and Clemson fell to Duke in Durham. So already we have 3 teams, Clemson, LSU, and Alabama, that were in the top 10 that have fallen, and it's only Week 2. Should be a fun season. Hopefully that leaves more space open for the Big Ten to eventually get 2 teams in the playoff again this year. Anyways, that is all for today. Thank you for watching Big Ten Nation. Have a great week. Enjoy Saturday, and I will see you next Tuesday. Good luck to your team.